Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to post-episode recap, post-episode issues, Better Call Saul, Season 1, Episode 9, Pimento. And as Ren would say, I love pimento cheese sandwiches, put lettuce and bacon on it, and I love them even better. Yum. Oh,
pimentos.
Eat 'em up. Yum. Okay, folks, if this is your first time checking us out, we'd love to hear what you thought of this episode of Better Call Saul. We are here to discuss the second to last episode of the season. Joe, could you adjust me a little bit? But we are here definitely discussing with everybody that checked in on our Walking Dead podcast last night. It was a lot of fun. I'm still a little tired and a little out of it from that podcast. It was a big, long 3-hour marathon of talking about the dead. But we're here tonight to talk about Better Call Saul. We had a location from Breaking Bad. I'm still echoing all over the place, Jeff. We're hanging out at a place called right across from the hospital. It seems like we're in that same car garage that Walter spied on Gus, thinking about blowing him up in Season 4. We also had worlds colliding in this episode with Nacho Ignacio meeting Mike for the first time. Very, very cool stuff. I personally like the second half of the episode better than the first half. If I have to be honest, the very, very first half of the episode, I like the way it creeped in, but the back half of this episode kicked my ass.
I'm pretty sure I loved everything that Mike was in. Every scene that Mike was in was top rated, and I really liked the progression of how this episode went. Like, you could see it before. Like, I hope everybody saw it before Jimmy saw it. Like, maybe even saw it when we saw him get his license in the previous episode that it was Chuck behind.
Right, we talked about that, I believe, a couple of episodes ago. I think again they're listening to us, Joe. They heard us talking about this before, and but it did seem obvious, and it seemed like the case in the situation where we talked about. I think it was last week, and everyone in the chat room as well, about how maybe Chuck just uses Hamlin as being the bad guy, because I thought he was kind of robotic tonight. I was like, what the hell is wrong with Hamlin? What big fucking thing did Jimmy do to him? Did he fuck his daughter? I mean, what's going on here?
No, and the way it all plays out when you think about it, I thought about the couple of scenes that he had to do, the turning him down on working for HHM, and then this scene again tonight, being able to move into an office or anything like that. He kept avoiding the question. Every time anybody asked him, and even the girl, why? He just turned it back around, like, thank you very much for your opinion, get the hell out of my office, thank you very much, duly noted, and then she's like, but why? And even Jimmy, like, what did I do? And he's like, listen, focus on the money. Like, why do you hate me so much? But the back end, Jimmy, come on. He didn't want to throw, he looks up to the Elder McGill, to Chucky, like nobody's business, and he's doing Chucky's dirty work, and you could kind of see that it gave a different element to Douche Nozzle there, and I felt a little bad for him. I felt like maybe in the past he did really like Jimmy. Everybody likes Jimmy. Jimmy's a good guy. Who doesn't like Jimmy? You want to have a drink with Jimmy. You want a piece of his celebratory cake, and then you have to go do that, and he's just he's sociopathic enough to do it and it not kill him, but he didn't like having to do it, I think.
We've got the chat room going right now. Just Incredible asked the question. That's a big question. We have Just Incredible, Sam Crow, Renwood, who predicted a lot of this episode. We have to give Ren major credit for before the episode started, predicting a lot of what was going to happen tonight. But I want to say what Just Incredible was saying. Did this episode change your mind about Kim? I'll also add to that question, did it change our mind about Hamlin as well?
About both of it changed my mind about both of them. It no longer became, well, not fully, not 100%. I didn't do a 180, but I'm more open to them. I thought it was this petty fucking thing on both of their parts. She was only focused on her career. He was only focused on maybe her or some slight that we don't know about, or just that he is that much of a douche. I don't know. That's where I was. But after seeing what we saw by the end of this episode, my mind is a lot more open to them two as characters. I don't think they're both in it just for their gain. But yeah,
Their own personal gain.
correct.
You don't think that Kim necessarily is in it. Kim showed, I think, at a point in time this episode, I was actually surprised the way she was talking to Hamlin about Jimmy. I was like, wait a minute, where's this coming from?
I was too. I thought she would be in on some of the, like, yeah. I definitely. I'm not 180 on the two of them, but I'm definitely.
And then I got to add on. I was also on Jimmy's side when he started to yell at her for those reasons. I started to be on Jimmy and be like, oh yeah, she must have accepted. She's a partner. She's taking a partnership. That's what's going on here.
Yep.
Hamlin's going to push Chuck out, and this is all part of his ultimate plan to fuck Chuck and bring her to replace Chuck as his underling. So that's what he offered her, and it didn't necessarily. I did think before about everything with Chuck being against Jimmy, but it didn't. And I knew that he called Hamlin earlier in the episode. You kind of figured it was Hamlin or her that he called, but still, it didn't quite connect to me until the switch happened in Chuck to make him turn.
Until he was looking at his phone, right? And that's what I was thinking too, like, because there was the point made about his phone, and it just not be. I always turn it off. He always turns it off. You always see him turn it off. You always see him hold the button. He doesn't just throw it in there. He opens it. You see him pressing a button, and you see him throw it in.
And that's just one of those things to know your narrative at the beginning to the end. You set up that Jimmy does that every single time, and you know he does that every single time. So it may just for this moment, so everyone's on Jimmy. I mean, even though you saw Chuck with the phone, so you knew he did it anyway. But it's just a one little added touch of why it would drive Jimmy crazy, because it's part of just his ritual every time he shows up.
Yeah.
He's respecting Chuck enough to do that.
Yeah, and of course he's going to do that. Who's going to put? I mean, his phone starts ringing off the hook. Someone walking by, they're going to take the phone. You know, like, oh look, free phone.
Let's go to the chat room for a second. Sam Crow, we got our first fuck of the season, pig fucker. Just Incredible says Mike versus Nacho. That was just seeing the two of them look at each other. It was pretty fucking intense eye fucking. Also said we already asked those. Yum, roly poly fish heads. Chuck is dead to Jimmy now. Fuck him. That was pretty harsh on Chuck.
Well, and there you go. Okay, so the way it's set up now, now you see why he changes his name. I think now he can finally look at Chuck as a flawed character.
Yes.
Because absolutely. All that she says, so what? My American Samoa degree that I worked my ass off while working 40 hours a week in the mailroom for your business. Well, I got that. You look down on that. So because you got your degree from wherever you got it, you look down on any other college that's not as good. Essentially, hey man. The state itself says you're able to practice, you know enough. Then what the fuck is your problem, Chuck?
He just showed himself that he's really an elitist, and always it really comes down to the second part of what he was saying, not even just the college or the schooling. It comes back to and I'll say it again when we get to it. You're like a chimp with a machine gun. A slippin' Jimmy with a law degree is Saul Goodman. Is a chimp with a machine gun.
Well, it's just, and then you can see this is the break. This is the break he needs to know. Like, this is where you get that, you know, final nail in the coffin, where he's not just a criminal lawyer. He's a criminal lawyer.
We'll see how that goes with scenes from next week. Anthony has a question. What do you think happened behind closed doors, though? I think either what Sam Crow was saying, he offered Kim a partner promise, or there was some element of that. But I think it was more, you're in the circle here, Kim, and I need to tell you something, that Chuck is really behind this. I wouldn't make this decision if it wasn't for Chuck, and I tend to agree with it, but I would have let Jimmy in on this one, and Chuck's always been the one. And if you want to be a part of this partnership, we have to listen to what Chuck said. Like, I bet Hamlin just told the truth.
Think that's along the lines. I think he probably said, everybody's wrong. I never disliked him.
He's a funny guy.
I'm a fucking X-Man. What do you want? It's not my fault, and I'm not at liberty to tell people who. It's none. And like I said before, Kim, really, this is none of your business. I don't need to be telling you this, but I think he's telling her, I respect you enough, or I like you enough, at least as a little bit of a person, to understand that, it's what had to be done because
Right.
Chuck wanted this done.
Right, and I'm sure he also, as you just put it, Joe, I'm sure a couple of times in that discussion with her, he was like, well, I kind of like Jimmy. He's a funny, charming guy, or something to that effect, connecting to what Chuck said later to him. Charm and making people laugh isn't going to get you everywhere. Because, I get the feeling now after this episode that Hamlin probably was like, we might as well give Jimmy a shot. He's a funny guy, we can have him schmooze people, something like that. And Chuck's like, no, that's dangerous. He's a fucking con man.
Lots of people get their law degree from community college, and that was part of his thing. It wasn't just American Samoa; it was also community college courses he was taking.
Yep, it's not for dropouts and I forget what the other thing
and
is.
Hippies trying to avoid the draft.
So the whole episode starts out with Chuck telling Jimmy that they must stay on their toes because this law firm that represents the old age home is going to file a restraining order, a civil harassment. He's surprised it hasn't happened already. They're both sitting on this grassy area on the bench. It's almost set up from behind the way they set up going into the shot to look like waiting for Godot for a second, but it's a really well lit, cool shot of the two of them hanging out. And
and he's not. They're outside, and he's not a wreck, Chuck.
Exactly. They're sitting out, but he's looking at an electric box, and he freaks out. But Jimmy tells him to take his shoes off. Relax and take your shoes off. And he's taking care of his brother. We're showing more and more how much he cares about Chuck. Takes care of him.
Right, and this is where I gotta say, like, what that fuckface says to Jimmy at the end, like, people don't change. What's that?
No, I said we can't help, but everything in this episode, we can't help but go back to the speech at the end because it makes you say, similar to what Sam Crow says, that Chuck's been pulling strings behind the whole time. It seems like it's one of those things that everything that we've seen with Chuck so far, we have to take into question that it's all been to push Jimmy down in some sense.
Some of it, yeah, I was very proud of you when you were in your place, but you're overreaching here, Jimmy. Essentially, is what he's like. How does he think he hasn't changed? Like, this is someone who was not part of his brother's life really, except for when he needed help. Was only out doing all these cons to make money. Didn't go to school.
This is a guy. I'll keep going with you, Joe. This is a guy that refused money as soon as a couple of weeks ago or something from Crazy Pants Kettleman that could have got away with
taking all of it. All of it.
He's trying to do the right thing, and Chuck is not trying to support him because if someone keeps trying to do the right thing and if your pet keeps doing the right thing and you don't give them a treat eventually, they're going to be like, fuck this, what the fuck's this worth? You got to give Jimmy this reward.
And he's not only done the right thing on all the lawyer stuff, but he stepped up and since Chucky had his little breakdown, he has been there for his brother. He has been I put it. There's a 20-pound bag of ice out there. I got those steaks you like, a couple of cans of gas, but you're on your own now because I can't do this anymore. I can't better myself, take care of you, and have you stomping me down. That's, and Chuck helps him in his own way, but he is also holding him down. And that money, I was disappointed in Chuck's reasoning for doing what he did and the way he explained it to him, and so for ultimately what he believes is why he did it. I was hoping that Chuck was going to get a whole different explanation out of his mouth. You're a good lawyer. I love you and all this stuff. I just want to keep this business separate or whatever. Right. There was other things he could have done.
No, but he just cut it loose. He just dropped all pretense and cut into him like he probably never has cut into him before, or not since the days of the Slippin' Jimmy days.
Right, we have a reputation. I don't want someone who has a arrest record like yours.
I'm sorry, it's not an old age home. It's assisted living. Tony, it's assisted living.
Yeah, it's very nice there.
It's in a retirement community.
Nah.
And Justin says, I don't know why Chuck had to say it like that. I don't know either. It seemed like a lot of frustration that was built up.
There's a million valid reasons why Jimmy would understand that he doesn't want him there. He doesn't want him there as an associate, but will help him pursue a career in any means he can aside from being part of HHM. And it's unfortunate that he wasn't
he
able to
can work at
articulate or
HHM.
even lie about any of those reasons for his brother's sake.
No, he can work at HHM as long as he's only in the mailroom. I mean, maybe he could get
Right.
transferred to being a mail secretary if he eventually, or
Right. He could be an assistant or maybe a
paralegal.
A legal aid, right? But no.
Something like that. That's basically it. And welcome, IC. Welcome back this week to check out the show. Chuck is a dumbbell tied to his leg in the middle of the ocean. It seems like it, and it seems if we know where Jimmy is to go, even though that eventually ends up in Cinnabons, he is only place to go up is up. But could we say, I hate to say it like this, I love Saul Goodman, but Chuck's an asshole. He's Walter, you're an asshole, but is he right?
Well, I mean, we see okay, this is my point. Some people need guidance and help, and Chuck was providing that for him, and some people need help in other ways.
He was
like
breaking good.
Deliveries and encouragement to even step outside the house, and getting, high-class lawyers to agree to throw their phones in the frickin' mailbox and this kind of shit. So they each have their strengths, they each have their weaknesses, but ultimately I think you got to say Chuck ends up being right without the Chuck influence in Jimmy's life.
Where he ends up. Ren put it really well just in one simple line. I said it a second ago too. Jimmy at this moment in time is trying to break good, and Chuck is not enabling that by doing this. If he got a job at HHM and they just gave him bit cases and let him work on, he might not have become what he eventually became, which is that chimp with the machine gun that Chuck was fearing.
Yep.
He
basically made him. He was making him even more desperate.
Yep. And as we see, and again, we're jumping way ahead, but I think this whole episode is just foreplay for that final scene when it comes down to it. And excellent lead up, but it's all this whole episode's theme. We could just spend this whole time talking about that last scene, and that's basically what it's all about.
Right. He doesn't ever give him a chance to prove himself. And basically, the moment he is about to prove himself and his talents and his abilities as a lawyer and what he actually did learn and hasn't learned and still has to learn, he takes that away from him by saying, we're going to give this case away. I know you found it. You were doing all this other work. You've been building a business. You found a niche, but...
Yep. Yeah, you're not a good enough... But ultimately, everything he's done over the last couple of weeks to help Jimmy out leads to one fact, and all those looks he had that we were trying to interpret what Chuck was thinking and whether he was feeling overwhelmed by the situation and any of that. What he was thinking that whole time, I'm projecting, but what I really think is this case is becoming too big for such a shitty lawyer like my brother. I need to get him off this because these people deserve a better lawyer than fucking Jimmy McGill.
Well, a lot of what he did say to him before they went for that meeting was true. We are going to get bogged down in all these silly frickin' legal moves that they have that they're going to play. It's going to take more than just us two to go through all these thousands and thousands of documents. We do need a much, much bigger team, and we don't have the capital to go out and buy it ourselves. We need HHM. We need those resources. That's not nothing. That is true.
That is ultimately the right choice, but with his help would have been the supportive thing to do. It's going that extra step by taking an active role to make sure that Hamlin wouldn't approve of Jimmy taking part in this whole situation. That's him undercutting to say, yeah, Jimmy's not good enough to work on the case this big. Fuck him. Give him money. Shut him up. All he cares about is money. He doesn't get it.
Michael McKean at that role.
Michael McKean playing that asshole when he can flip that switch like that. We've seen that before in some of his work when he can play so helpless, he can play so funny and goofy, and then he can play that dick. And you saw Michael McKean dick tonight.
The range on that man. Very, very well done. Bravo.
Very awesome stuff. And dude brings him whale oil and ice, and his brother works against him. Yeah, what the fuck, man? He's the only one you got. You're gonna soon realize how alone you are, Chuck. So after this scene with them leading in, it was kind of a short intro, and it cuts over to Stacy in Stacy's yard where we see the shelter dog that Mike had last week playing with Kaylee, and Mike is going on about if I got the dog its shots, don't worry, and if it pees on or if it gets fleas, I'll kick the dog's butt myself. And she's kind of like, oh, a dog. I don't know if I want to get a dog. But she's smiling, watching at the kid play. And then Mike basically steps up and says, listen, I'll pay for everything for the dog. You don't have to worry. Eventually, he gets a phone call, and he walks over and he says, okay, I'll be right there, leading to where he's going to meet for the stuff connected to the vet from last week. And Stacy asks if everything's okay. Almost kind of offending-ish, like, oh, is everything okay? You're supposed to give me all your attention now. A little bit, but not too much. I'm reading into it because I don't trust this woman exactly, and I just think she's going to use poor old Mike this whole time. And he says, yep, just another a lead on a job offer. Then we go off to court to Saul arguing his case about them not letting him see the clients. The guy says there's no...
I gotta say, I love the way he has that whole phone call. Yup.
Okay.
Yup. I got it. Click. So, like, minimalist. I love his minimalist. It's so beautiful.
He's
his approach to everything.
There's so much comedy in everything he does. He takes so much takes his moments so well, and there was so much of it tonight. He talked about this episode in the before the season started. Where they're showing a lot of presses coming out, and he pointed to this episode as one of the ones where he got to be a little bit more funny and show some of his comedic side. And it definitely came out in this scene, and specifically in the scene that you knew where it was going with him.
Of course you knew. As soon as you saw that start to unfold with that first question, is this where we wait? You knew exactly. And then when that other douchebag...
Oh God, yeah, that guy was just trouble. That ass hat was ripen for an ass kicking. You just knew it was happening. You knew it was on. That was so funny.
What you packing?
Nothing. I don't need it. I'm not packing anything. Oh, I'm packing. What do you have? I'll take one of yours. Whoa, how you do that? So we go off to Saul in court arguing his case about them not letting him see his clients. He said there's no stopping me from seeing them, or the other lawyer argues we're not stopping him from seeing. They can go somewhere else. We're a private business. We could do anything we want, which is very important for the moment right now. So anyways, the judge asked, why are you denying access? He says, well, this guy's flamboyant and he's disturbing the peace.
Yeah, no, you can't. Bottom line is this: you can't deny him access to his clients.
Right, and he's prepared for everything this guy says because Chuck did prepare him for knowing what kind of. This guy also says, oh, it's harassment, yada yada, and Saul says, yeah, that you're stretching that law quite a bit to make that stick, and also old people love me. I'm like Matlock. So then he comes over to Chuck's house and kind of gloating, being real happy. Oh, Dad, I won. Look at me do a flip in the pool. Dad, look, I'm doing a handstand. And Chuck is there with all these forms showing up, and he said, this is them dumping paperwork on us. If we're in a case this big, we're going to have to do paperwork after paperwork, and we're just going to get completely backed up. Saul says, oh, well, we can do this. Let's just start. You know, we're two people. We can get into this. We can get all this paperwork done. Let's just get head on.
Optimistic.
So optimistic. So different than the...
with a touch of a con, you get the feeling like Michael McKean's like, I'm so above most of this work, I don't want to do any of this.
Right. You get a feeling...
Saul's trying to con him into doing as much of it as possibly can get done because he's the brains and he's a great worker and he's OCD and all that other shit.
To half a steel Ren's comment. Yeah, we could be like Erin Brockovich. No, Jimmy. Erin Brockovich did not do it on her own.
Yeah.
It wasn't just Julia Roberts' boobs that got everybody freedom. And
her lips had a roll.
Sam Crow says that backyard is dirty as fuck. Stacy needs to clean. Yeah, the dog's not gonna help. Maybe that's why she was looking at the dog like, I don't want this dog. She's like, I can't even clean my backyard. You expect me to pick up dog poop? Uh, now, you're not packing. Yeah, that guy. You're not packing. You need to pack. Okay, in a situation like that. GTA 5 fans take a wild guess who that guy was, as well as the Connect. Was one of the characters in the episode was the one of the bodyguard guys, Trevor? Is that what you're implying? Was that
No, I think maybe the guy was that really?
maybe? Okay, let's go
No, no,
on.
no, the guy they were bodyguarding. I
Oh,
think maybe was Lester.
maybe. Anna Banana says, just getting home to watch Saul. Can't wait to enjoy your after show. Kim better not be backstabby. I think Kim might get some brownie points for you tonight, Anna. So we'll go. Liquid Eagle obviously knows, so they're gonna answer the trivia question. Notice I said she, he, there, just in case. I covered all bases.
Yeah, there you go.
No matter what you're packing, Liquid Eagle, I got you. I got you covered. Thank you. So Jimmy gets into, you're not going to like what I have to say, but the best thing we can do right now is go to HHM. And Brooklyn Bridge could be built by two guys, but it would take fucking forever. And that goes to kind of what Joe was saying, that Chuck and Jimmy probably could do all this paperwork, but Chuck feels like he is above all of this, especially as he starts to feel more like himself. He starts to feel more like a lawyer in control, and less like somebody that would be down to doing lowly paperwork, especially for someone like fucking Jimmy McGill.
Right.
And this is where Jimmy goes into, go, fine, I accept it, and especially if I get an office next to yours, we're going to be working together, it's going to be great. And Chuck just doesn't really miss a beat and says, yes, especially with my space blanket interior of my coat, we're going to be in great shape. Which is awesome. I forgot to mention that before. When he was outside, he shows the inside of his coat that he's got it all lined with the space blanket. So, ding, we got a ding. One of us was
Well,
right,
I
Joe,
think you were right.
that this guy in this scene is Trevor. He sounded a little bit like him.
The douchebag is Trevor. Yeah.
Douchebag is Trevor.
The asshat.
That makes sense why his voice was so familiar to me. So, anyways, we see Mike in a parking garage with a bag on the ground, and I was like, "What's up with the bag on the ground?" So, and I said in the notes right here, this was the same place where, and I said this earlier, where Walt watched Gus towards the end of season 4 near the hospital. And we meet this big guy, this huge guy walks over, obviously, and I initially thought it was another applicant for the job, not another person that was working the job, but it ended up being just another guy that's there because it's a 3-person job. The guy's huge. It's huge, like, and it's just a really funny perspective of Mike looking up at this guy, like, like, if I had to take this guy down, I would, but this guy's kind of scary looking too. But
Yeah,
he also has a really, really kind of normal voice. Like, oh, hi, is this the place I wait for the job at? He was just a funny
he's still 7 feet tall, capable of playing the mountain, maybe.
and he said, and they're sitting there waiting for their employer. So another guy comes over, and this asshat guy who just won't shut up, and he's like, this is a protection job. Oh yeah, I've been doing now the vet. If you got recommended by the vet, he only recommends the best. Oh yeah, the vet is a top end criminal advisor. He's connected with the high end of the New Mexico crime reigns. And he's like, but you never know with these ethnic types. Their bloods run hotter than everybody. It's an historical precedence to this. It was almost like a Eugene line there, the way he was the word attack. So what are you packing? And Mike says, pimento. The guy says, funny. And he goes, oh, you don't want to tell me? Don't be a douche. I'm not being a douche. I told you. I have a pimento and cheese. Kind of delicious.
And he looks at the bag sitting on the curb. Like, that's what he looks at. What do you mean? The pimento sandwich.
Yeah, that is an awesome line. The best line in Down and Out in Beverly Hills. Great fucking movie. He's gonna give that dog fleas. That dude could have killed them all. Yeah, the big guy, the mountain. I fucking love that movie, Down and Out in Beverly Hills, with Nick Nolte, and great film.
Mm.
So Mike's packing the pimento sandwich, and so you don't want to mess with the fucking pimento sandwich. And this guy goes, "Don't be a douche." Well, you don't. I mean, gun. What kind of gun? You don't have a gun? Is that what you're saying? You're not packing? And then he goes over to the big guy, goes over the mountain. Hey, you packing? You got a gun? He's like, yeah, I got. And he goes, well, I got two guns. Well, two guns that I'll tell you about. I got a Glock. I got this, but those are only two. I'll only tell you about two. And, what a turd. What a turd sandwich.
And you knew exactly where this. I mean, this is a cliche in TV too, but it was fun to watch.
Yeah, and that's what I wrote in my notes too a little bit. I wrote this whole scene was a cliche, but one of the most fun times I had watching a scene in a while. You've seen this scene a million times in some fashion like this, and it was just done to perfection. And the way Jonathan Banks plays this, it's just hilarious, fucking hilarious, because you knew where it was going. So a limo pulls out, and George Costanza walks out, basically, and he's like, "Oh, today we're first things first. I got a cooler. I've got some water and soft drinks. I don't drink coffee, but we're gonna stop at a diner, and if you guys want to get coffee." Now it's 500.
I actually
liked George Costanza.
I liked his spiel. He looked nervous, but you could also expect like some evil shit out of this guy. Should you not have pissed? I gave you the opportunity. You know what I mean? Yeah, I even brought refreshments, motherfucker.
I don't be surprised if I'm gonna hack you up with my chainsaw in the back of the car.
Right. Like I was thinking, oh, that would be fun too, but I like the way they went with him. He was just this nervous, never done something like this before kind of thing.
Similar to Walter when we first meet Walter in his first criminal endeavors. Not quite exactly. Very similar, not as capable as Walter, but the same type of guy being out of his element for the first time, and how he'll respond to it is yet to be seen. If we'll see that guy again or in season 2, or again this season or in season 2, that he's starting more down his path to Breaking Bad, or if this was enough for him. It seemed like he liked it enough, and knowing that he has someone like Mike on his side could lead him into thinking, this could be easier. Mike knows this guy. I'll just give him a higher percentage. Mike's probably going to negotiate a higher percentage of the price and get into an ultimately working for Nacho out of all of this, is what I'm assuming is going to happen next week. But that's just my hope.
Right.
So they get into, he goes 500 a man. It's agreed upon. The dick guy says, hey, why don't we take 750 because we don't need Grandpa or this dead weight. He didn't even bring a gun. He doesn't have a piece. The guy goes, well, this is the kind of thing you need a gun. And Mike goes, fine. If I need a gun, I'll just take yours. I'm pointing to the dick guy. And the guy's like, how the Bill Jackoff are you? And that's where I rewound that a couple times so I can get that line correct. How the Bill Jackoff can you take my gun? Great fucking line delivery on that from Dick Guy. And he points the gun at Mike, and Mike says, you're making it easy. Don't make it easy for me.
You don't have to make... He's like, I'll make it easy for you. No, you don't have to. You can make it a little less easy if you want.
And then he does the cop trick where he grabs the gun and spins it around and breaks it in half and hands it back to him, all broken apart.
He doesn't hand it back to him. He jabs it in the dude's neck when he makes a move because he's so pissed he got disarmed so easily.
And then he just totally wrecks the guy and gets him in the throat. The guy's fucked up on the ground. And then the big guy, the Mountain, just goes, fuck this, and runs away. The Mountain wants no part of this guy.
He just turns tail. I don't understand what he's so freaked out about.
I don't know if that was just a comic take they decided to keep in there because they thought it would be funny. Because it reminded me if you're playing Arkham City, sorry, video game reference, and you beat the shit out of the whole group of guys. The one last guy tries to run away from Batman. Yeah. We never see the guy try to run away. It just made him think, oh fuck, I'm not fucking with this guy. But it did, that kind of, just from a financial standpoint, didn't make sense. I guess it was Mike's way of intimidating him to get all the loot, scoop the pot.
Yeah, it was nice to see that guy run away. That was the element that I mean, he had no reason to run. He hadn't done anything wrong towards Mike. He could have just kept his mouth shut and got in the van. Made himself $500, $750.
Anthony says, no one shits in the van.
So there will be no pee stops.
So and Mike says yes. No one shits in the van. There will be no peace stops. And now I get 1,500. Agreed. That's how this is gonna. Mike does the same thing he tried with Walter, but Walter again wasn't. Walter wasn't going to deal with it.
Yeah.
Walter's not the type to deal with someone telling him
Walter
what.
had nothing to lose. Remember that.
Right. But he goes, "This is how things are going to go, guy. You're going to give me the $1,500. You're going to give me everything. We don't need three men. We're going to be fine. Let's go." Anthony says that gun disarm move is how Denzel hands out his business cards. Liquid Eagle says, best believe Mike was going alone one way or another. Yeah, Mike doesn't have partners until, oh God, I'm blanking on his name, because we're probably going to see him at some point on Better Call Saul. His partner that Walter and Jesse end up getting killed by Gus later on. I forget that character's name, but we're probably going to see
about that.
he was exactly. Mike was very upset about losing. He says, "I found him. I groomed that guy." So that is probably the character. I'm guessing if people are looking for more Breaking Bad crossovers, I assume he's going to be in season 2 or season 3 if that happens of Better Call Saul.
That'll be nice. I forgot all about that. I forgot about that guy. That's going to be nice.
Yeah, that was one of those other points from my Breaking Bad rewatch. I wanted to point out that we have to meet that guy at some point and see how Mike found him essentially. Sam Kerr says the bigger they are, the more pussies they are. Yeah. In some ways, that's why the mountain is freakishly crazy. And Joe's taking partialness to that. Wait.
It's not always true. I know some pretty big guys that I know some small guys too. There are no stereotypes when it comes.
Yeah, but I think in that situation, our hint about that guy when he comes in with his voice like this is that he's a big package with.
Is this where I'm supposed to wait? He's just a dumb guy.
He's a big dumb guy in that moment. That's like I don't want to fuck with this guy. I'm getting out of here. I made him the Penguin for some reason. Yeah, the old school Penguin. So we go to Saul. Saul and Chuck going out. He's prepping him, asking him what his safe word is, and he says, "What's your safe word, Chuck?" My safe word is "Get me the hell home." That's a good safe word. That's my safe word is applesauce, banana, flapjacks. That's my safe word.
No, I like Chuck's safe word.
Yeah, me too. That's one of the best.
No complications.
So he's wearing the moon blanket on the inside, going for a little ride, getting in the car, and they drive. Chuck calls him. He gets the phone. He says, "Call ahead, tell him we're coming," and he sees that the phone's dead. And we also cut over to Hamlin, and McGill, and they're collecting all the phones. Hamlin is going out of his way to set things up for Chuck. Again, we're getting more and more signs that just hinting and pushing you in the direction, and they've given you a lot going through and made you question since episode 1 what Hamlin's opinion of Chuck really is. Is he someone that's trying to play him, steal his business, get his work against his best interest? But again, they've sprinkled this, and this is why Hamlin's been an interesting character to look at.
I think there's parts of both. He wants Hamlin back. He respects Hamlin.
Chuck.
Killed Chucky back. He respects him. He knows that the business is there because of him. Like, he seems to be the rock star of lawyers, really.
In a lot of ways, he can cover both ground. Justin says, even though it was messed up, I respect Hamlin for not telling on Chuck right then and there when Jimmy asked him. Yeah, that kind of goes into what I'm trying to say here too. I think this episode proved to me if we're going on that pie chart or going on the scale here of how much Hamlin cares about Chuck, I think Chuck is Superman to him. He would do anything for Chuck.
Right. Well, here's the thing. Two things happen. If he does that, he doesn't want Chuck to step up and say, "Okay, buy me out. I'm leaving. Give me my share." That's the last thing that Hamlin wants. So he's not going to do that. But ultimately, what it does show is because right from the beginning when Chuck got his degree and became a lawyer, passed the bar.
Jimmy, you mean?
Yeah, Jimmy. He has not wavered on telling, Jimmy that it was his brother behind it. He could have done that.
Yeah, he could have ratted him out at
Before.
any time and been like, Jimmy, I would absolutely give you something. I would actually absolutely go down that road with you. But Chuck just doesn't want it to happen. I'm really, really.
I'm a bit curious. How long has Jimmy had his bar? Has it been since he passed the bar? Because Chuck was in his office at his desk.
It's one of the interesting things that this show is choosing not to do when they flash back. Sometimes they're only telling you the time periods when they're choosing to tell you the time periods. They flash back to those times, but didn't tell you exactly when it is. The only thing you can imagine is that it's probably 4 or 5 years ago or longer because of the nature of where Kim was in the company and how she's progressed from her career, that she just became a lawyer. Now she's working. You figured that would take a couple of years. It's probably, I'm guessing, 2 to 3 years ago, maybe. But it's
like, it still seems a little strange that Slippin' Jimmy here would be at the level he is with his degree. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to build clientele, get your name out there. So, who knows? It's a little strange to me on times and how long it's been. And
absolutely, especially when we're dealing with so many different time frames. We've got the future, the Cinnabon Saul stuff. We've got the past that we flash back to Slippin' Jimmy when he was getting out of jail. And it doesn't help that they're doing a great job. There's only so much Bob Odenkirk can do to make himself look a lot of different ages. When they started just trying to mess with the hairpiece, giving him hair. I mean, he is a certain age, so there's only so much they can do with that stuff.
Right, and so that adds is what's helping to add to my new view on Hamlin there, is because you also got to add in that loyalty factor that he has for his business partner. And for all these years since Jimmy's gotten his bar, he never told him, it's your brother who doesn't want you to work here, not me.
And again, as a lot of these notes that I had about this scene coming up, awesome fucking scene, that is about Hamlin being so robotic, but it all makes sense now.
It does, and I love how much it made. Like
it just makes so much. This show is so fucking awesome, Joe. This show is, I'm sorry. This show is so fucking awesome the way that they do this, and it makes you. That's why I said it makes me want to go back and watch everything now and look at Hamlin and look at him more as someone in struggle, possibly of doing what all in all is in what he feels from Chuck's mouth is in Chuck's best interest and in Jimmy's best interest.
Right.
Sam Crow says Chuck makes Hamlin more of a dick. Probably would have hired Jimmy at this point if Chuck wasn't in the picture. I tend to agree with that as well.
There's undeniable talents that Jimmy has. There's things that Jimmy is going to bring to that table for the law firm. Sure, you might never make him a partner. He might end up getting there in spite of his brother. But this is the kind of guy you kind of want in your law firm. Someone that knows. Exactly. All lawyers want to tell you they know and understand their clients, but he really has a unique vision of the client,
Think about it even now, all the things that Jimmy's done so far that he's found out about through Kim, and every time she tells him about one of his zany adventures or one of his zany plans or something, McGill almost has a smirk on his face, like he kind of looks up to him, and it makes him, when he says that thing to him, oh, you're a regular Charlie Hustle. Maybe he was being serious about that and saying he does respect what Jimmy's doing, but he just can't help him because Chuck's behind closed doors is like, this guy's a fucking, you can't trust this guy. This is all part of a bigger con. We can't give him power. We can't give him credibility. We have to keep his ego down. Because if he gets too strong, bad things are going to happen.
Well, ultimately, when you look at Jimmy's where he ends up at Cinnabon, imagine if you had that. Something happened to Chucky, you would have that unleashed inside Hamlin, and McGill.
Yeah.
And what damage that could have done to the firm that Chucky has built from his blood, sweat, and tears would be devastating.
But let's go down to the end here, Joe, a little bit of the episode, and talk about what happens at the end here with Chuck basically not being able to keep his mouth shut and blowing up the spot, or not being able to cover his bases because Jimmy snuffed him out. Jimmy called rat on him. because of that, and because of not letting Jimmy in and everything, this is going to bring down Hamlin McGill. Jimmy's going to make it. Saul Goodman is going to make it his purpose to bring this all crashing down.
You think so? No, I think he just steps away. I think he says, you know what?
I think
I'm not a McGill. I'm obviously not him. I'm not part of that family. That was awful.
I think he's gonna burn this fucking place down.
No, I think he's. What I'm thinking is he does say, you know what? I decided I'm gonna take that money. Here, have the case. Give me the money, and I'm off to do exactly what Kim said. I'm gonna go get my Roman pillar office. You know, I'm gonna go change my name to Saul Goodman. You know, get this ball going. Get this show started. It's 20,000, maybe even a little bit more because he played a little bit of hardball there.
We will see
$20,000 in his pocket plus the back end that comes through later.
Joe, I don't disagree. That's what's awesome about the show. I could see them going either direction with it. Think that they can make Jimmy completely be okay with this. All I'm saying is
no. Not okay with this.
No, I'm not okay, but I'm not saying not okay. Take the money, move on, switch over to Saul Goodman, start his own thing, do all that. I tend to think he's going to seek some sort of revenge on Chuck because of this. It's not just going to be abandoned.
I think the revenge is just stepping away. No more bags of ice, no more gas.
You're probably right.
I can see them at some point having to go head-to-head with clients. Absolutely. I think that would be a fantastic way to get at him. Maybe he wins a huge case against them for some reason.
I have a weird feeling this is going to go a dark.
Kim finally steps out and says, "I want to sue them for some sort of harassment or sexism suit or something like that," and gets the $20 million settlement.
So let's get in the chat room a little bit. Justin Credible says Hamlin gave Jimmy the biggest compliment last episode when he called him Charlie Hustle. I think that's a funny expression. We were just talking about that. Why I sent MMH. What's so special about Hamlin's name twice? Hamlin. We don't know who that other H is. There another? No, it's Hamlin and McGill. There's probably a second Hamlin, like his brother or something like that, or his nephew or some shit. After watching Howard spare Jimmy's feelings, he deserved that piece of cake. Yeah.
Maybe like, do they call Chucky Charlie Hustle around there?
Maybe.
Charles McGill, Chuck, Charlie Hustle. You're just like you're chip off the old block. You're Charlie Hustle. Is that what Could that be it?
Could be.
I've never heard you're Charlie Hustle.
No, that's a definite. We've talked about that. We don't have to get into that. That's a known statement.
Okay.
They used to call Pete Rose, the baseball player, Charlie Hustle.
All right.
It's again, you could think of it as an insult or on a different level on Better Call Saul. They called him a Pete Rose, which means a cheat. He called him a cheat. But
I didn't know. He's not a cheat. He
didn't cheat. It's a deeper meaning of the writers putting in as a different meaning of it's funny that he called him that, and that's a side meaning of calling it cheat. I don't think he meant that.
I like it. Okay.
So Anthony says, oh yes, Hamlin turned into a more complex character. We already said that, but he absolutely did. He turned into a more complex character. IC says, yeah, Jimmy could have been useful at HHM, maybe not at the front desk, but dirty work out the back door. Oh yeah, but absolutely.
Yeah, stuff that falls within the lines that you need to take care of. He's a perfect person for that.
Exactly.
But it's just over the line.
Sam Crow says Jimmy still has hella money stashed away while working at Cinnabons. He does. He must be super rich. And they have said we're going back there next week. So, or they haven't. Earlier in the season they said we are going back to that before the end of the season. So I assume that we're going back there next week unless something has changed. Anthony says totally. I see. How could at least get Hamlin a discount on those weird gold collar shirt piercing he had? What were those? And Sam Chris says he's still rich, it's just on the DL. And funny, yeah, great comment, Anthony, and great IC. Thank you, guys. So Chuck and Jimmy arrive. Chuck's doing all right. The sky's all washed out as they start to walk in. And Chuck walks in the room, and everyone applauds him, and he comes in. Cut to Jimmy the day saying, talking about the whole situation to Hamlin, presenting the case. And Hamlin gets right on it, says, we have 60 people, and we'll get this RICO case is huge. We can get this up to 500 if we go to multi-states.
I want to stop you, and I want to talk about Michael McKeon's face when they walked in and everybody started cheering. It was precious. He looked like he was about to burst into some tears. He was very overwhelmed with the reception he got, and they did take a lot of care. You see that every single employee, including Hamlin himself, threw their phones in that bin. You know, they turned off all the lights. They not only turned off all the lights, it looked like they shut down the switchboards, everything. Like they turned it all off for this guy. There's a lot of respect and care that went into getting him back into that office.
Absolutely, and he seemed really emotional about the whole situation.
And nobody was joking about it. Nobody was cracking wise. Nobody insulted anybody or anything in that whole process. And I really liked to see that.
Yeah,
because that was something that was going to be my litmus test as to whether or not Hamlin was.
Yeah, and there was no sneering. He made sure everyone had their cell phones. Him and Kim were on it, getting everything done.
They were super respectful about everything, and not a single person said one snide remark or comment or anything like that. I liked that.
Yeah, and again,
everybody in that place has mad respect for this guy.
Yeah, and they don't care about any of this. They still know. And again, they probably, a lot of them are looking at this case too and going, "Oh, he brought in another one. Look at this. He's working injured, and
he brought in a $20 million freaking RICO indictment case. Are you kidding me? This guy is a rock star, and they treated him like one. It was a very heartfelt moment, and McKeon made you feel like he felt it in his heart.
And just to give you the other side of it here, I want to go with Ren saying that, and this is what I think is going inside of Jimmy, is similar to what Ren said here. F you, Chuck. The revenge is I'm on TV in my loud suits. I look nothing like you, Chuck. So that goes similar to like what you were saying, Joe, that his revenge on Chuck is going to be turning into Saul Goodman. That's
what I feel.
And basically pushing it in his face. And now it makes even more sense why, or it adds to the whole thing of why he'd want to be put out there so much, so everyone always knows that you could have had me on your side and I wouldn't be this. So you're fucked now. Anthony says Hamlin made sure he was comfortable more than he had to. Yes, he did. He really made sure. He hugged him. They head off upstairs. Kim helps Jimmy up with his box.
You know when they hugged, he had to have felt the space suit lining, or at least heard it crinkle or something like that. You know, no comment, no flinch, no nothing over it. Like
nothing.
I really feel like he's extremely loyal to McGill, to Chucky, to Mr. McGill. My opinion of him has changed a lot because of this episode. A lot.
For me, it's almost changed 100%. Like I said many times, it makes me want to go back and look at his old scenes and look at them slightly different. To think that he's always working on essentially, companies.
He gave me such a distaste in my mouth. I really feel like I don't have to look back at any of those scenes. Like he played them almost the same way he played all of these scenes.
Mechanical.
It's brilliantly done, but I do think there is a bit of like disconnect. Almost with emotion and relationship with him. So.
Right. I think we've only seen quote unquote the real Hamlin for 1 second in this episode for the first time in this season. We're about to get to with him and Kim.
Agree. Absolutely.
When he goes, you really want to know?
No. When he almost barks at her, it's none of your business. He keeps his calm. He keeps robotic. He avoids the question a couple of times. She pushes the issue, and he finally gets upset, and it hurt. You can feel he wanted to say more, and that obviously this isn't a light issue for him, and he's pissed that he has to be the bad guy for everybody. Because when he does send her out of the room, basically on her heels, he tells her to stop. You can see the pain in his face that he can't believe he had to just do that to her too, and he calls her back in to explain.
Right.
I think he had to also do that to her to say, listen, I am the fucking boss, and some things you don't get an explanation for, and that hurt him as well because he does respect this woman some.
And I think he's a nice-ish guy. Oh, I said it. Damn. I
don't know.
To people he likes. I think he felt bad. I think I'm going to go a step further than you, Joe, and say I think he felt bad that he treated anybody like that. He yelled at.
I agree. I agree.
He's like, I never yell at anybody. I don't want to be like that. That's not me. That's why I'm saying the real him was him when he came in and he dropped the It was 2 times. You're right, because he dropped the robotic there, but then he dropped the robotic again when he's like, okay, I'm sorry. Do you really want to know? And he acts kind of calm about it, and that's the first time we've seen him break out of that. I am talking like this, and this is how I am talking, everybody. And those two moments were the first 2 times we saw him, any humanity out of him, really. So surrounded by basically almost every partner in the now what we've seen a few times, the boardroom, Howard tells Jimmy that they're thrilled with the case and they'll give him 20% of the common fund share, but that will take years because this is going to be an ongoing case. But for right now, we can work something out and get you like $20,000 of like a counseling fee or something. Will that work out?
If you worked on it.
Yeah, and Jimmy on both cases was like, yeah, that sounds fucking great. And Howard says, and Jimmy says, well, cool. How do we gonna work this? Give me an office right next to Chuck's, and we're on. This is gonna be great. So Howard,
I think Chuck needed to know some part of him needs Jimmy there to help with his sickness also, because there can't be an office without cell phones and no electricity and all the switchboards off if Chuck's gonna be there.
Very, very interesting. Very interesting.
You know what I'm saying? So in order for Chuck to be at the office to partake in this, I think Jimmy's going to have to be there for him.
Yeah, and I think that's what's going to come. He's going to come to a realization, but it's going to be too late. And Jimmy's going to tell him to go fuck himself. That's what I think is going to happen. Maybe. So Hamlin made sure he was comfortable when he had to wear. So the Sam Crow said Hamlin always had Chuck in his ear. I agree with that 100%. Liquid Eagle said Hamlin went all Michael Douglas Wall Street on Kim. Oh yeah, with that scream he basically did. He raised his voice. Or Michael Corleone on Kay in the Godfather. You want to ask about my business? I'll never ask me about my business. Anthony says at least you didn't go Basic Instinct on her. Yeah, you didn't go that kind of. You didn't throw her down and get all breathe on her like Michael Douglas breathed. Sam Crow says, I like Hamlin more than Ted Beneke. Me too, and they're similar characters, or you could see that both actors could get cast for either role, and I like him better than Ted Beneke as well. Beneke sucks. I like Beneke better than Glee, to be honest with you.
Why don't I know that
Ted Beneke is Skyler's boss on Breaking Bad, the guy she has an affair with, that they eventually get the tool that gets thrown out the window when he gets scared of.
No, that dude's a wicked douche. He's really only about himself.
Right, but I'm saying is like the actors. But I think both actors could pull off both characters. Yeah. They're the same. They're the same type of. They're both like just douche tards that know how to can talk and that Skyler, I miss you. Book my numbers.
Well, there's I really like this too because when he says, give me the office.
I'm glad he's crippled.
And he says, he said, does he say it like right away before he responds to anything? He says, "Can we clear the room, please?"
Yes, he says, "Excuses the team."
Before he answers that he's not going to have the office, right?
Right.
And that's, I think, super respect, not just for Chuck, but he did that for Jimmy.
Yep.
Not because he hates Jimmy, but because I think he likes Jimmy.
Yeah, that's what I said. That's what I said too.
Everybody likes Jimmy.
I think it was his opportunity to give Jimmy a little bit more money under the table there and not tell everybody. As he says, I can give you a little bit more money. How about 30?
It was his chance to let Jimmy walk out with some dignity too. Yeah. We're not going to have this discussion in front of 20 people that don't need to know anything about it. We don't need to, if anything does get disclosed, we don't need them to be here for Chuck to have to be a witness to any of this. I really liked the way he did that. I really thought it was a great moral victory for that character to have done that, and it showed that he really does not dislike.
We're having a Hamlin love fest tonight, really.
We are.
We are. This has turned into the Hamlin love fest.
It's so unfair on the ham.
Yeah, we have been. I mean, if we could subtitle this podcast "Ham Love," we really could. We are loving this guy. So Howard excused the team. Kim shoots Jimmy kind of a nervous look on the way out. And here's the thing, says Howard. HHM wants this case, just the case. You get my drift? And Jimmy tells Howard he can go to hell. He'll burn every file before he hand the case over to
He'll
him.
burn the case to the ground. He'll see nobody get any money. He'll lose the case before he lets them go anywhere near it without him.
Yep.
He's biting his nose off to spite his face like he always does.
He doesn't give a shit. And he storms out of there, and not even more money will do it. Liquid Eagle says the brothers breaking up was inevitable and a great explanation why we never see him in Breaking Bad. Yeah, it does, and we'll see how it goes next week. If Chuck is even in next week, or if we're on to another level of where Jimmy's going to be somewhere else. He's going to take the money and move somewhere, or not move, and then come back to Albuquerque later. It seems like
I'm hoping.
It seems like he goes on a trip.
I'm hoping it doesn't. The McGill boys don't finish their story until next season. That's part of a cliffhanger I can hold on to, because that's family that's going to go on. That's something that can go on forever. So next season is when I think they finish that storyline, when they have their final closure.
The bigger question for me is, do you think Mike and Saul's story are going to intersect again at all before the end of the season? Especially with Nacho involved now.
I think there's a great possibility that
Ignacio
Mike refers this guy to Saul. He stole a bunch of pills from his fucking company.
Right, but I'm more talking about that very well could be a possibility. But will Nacho play more of a part in the finale with Mike and connect that to Saul at some point? I don't know. I'm hoping for something.
It's possible that if Mike refers this guy to, okay, if he gets pinched, right? The cops are going to be like, all right, who'd you sell all those 80 milligram Oxycontins to, or whatever the fuck he was.
And he's gonna rat on Nacho, and Nacho's gonna have to be in a courtroom seeing Saul defending the guy that's on opposite side of him.
Right, and why wouldn't Mike? Of course, Mike is gonna say, go talk to Saul, because Saul's gonna know what kind of position Mike's in, and not let Mike get thrown under the bus. But any other lawyer is gonna be like, oh, well, we need to get this guy Mike in here to corroborate your story about him chopping the guy in the neck and going on this deal with you.
I just know that, like, somewhere in my heart,
demanding the extra $20.
Somewhere in my heart, I know that Nacho and Saul have more to do, because of the way that Saul immediately goes to his name in Breaking Bad when Jesse and Walt have him at gunpoint in the desert. It means he's had more interactions with Nacho than just what happened, especially in a 6-year period of time between then and now. Now and then.
Nacho's going to be a great character in this story arc.
In this story, and a bigger character, and a bigger partner with Saul, to the point, or work with him more, to the point where he would be the first person that Saul would think that would be dragging him out to the desert. He's 6 years later, so he has to have a lot of interaction with this guy. So for whatever that's worth, and if there was any doubt that Nacho was Ignacio, it got completely thrown out tonight when we heard Mike actually say his name, so to just clear it up completely that that's the same character Saul was talking about. Ren Renwood says, Howard, Jimmy, sometimes in our line of work you can get so caught up in the idea of winning that you forget to listen to your heart. Yep. Nacho will show up, number 5 combo with his homie Taco to protect to hurt Taco Supreme. Yeah. There's going to be some fucked up shit going on in this season finale, I have a feeling. Big Kev is in the house. How's it going, Big Kev? Got here late, having a rockin' show. I just don't say poor Jimmy, his brother's such a mother dick. Fucking mother dick. And sorry. I was just about to read some Walking Dead comments. Sorry. Okay, so stung, Jimmy tells Howard he can go to hell, and he'll burn every file. And Howard kind of calls him on his bluff and says, "Go ahead and do it. We'd love to have this case, but if that's how you feel, that's how you feel." And just walks out of there like a robot. And Jimmy turns to Chuck and goes, "What the hell just happened?" And Chuck kind of squirms in his seat like something's up. And right there is when I started to think something was up, but that Chuck knew more than he was saying. But they played it perfectly, and Michael McKean played it great, because it could have also been just Chuck feeling uncomfortable being in public.
Yep.
And you weren't, so it was a misdirection. So you didn't really, and that's what it's always been with Chuck so far. And every time that you could think that Chuck's actively working against Jimmy, it's misdirection that it could just be blame it on what he's going through. or that he's lost his mind a little bit or something, which obviously he hasn't. So later, Kim comes in to Howard to plead for Jimmy's case. She says it's her friend, and he's a good lawyer and has a lot to offer the company. And Howard, you treated him unfairly. And this is when Howard's like, why? I treated him unfairly. You know what? This is none of your fucking business. He doesn't say fucking, but he just gets in her face.
It takes a few. Like, he does the same thing to her that he was doing to oh my God, he was doing to Jimmy. He wasn't answering the question. He was just, okay, thank you for coming to me, thank you for your advice, have a good day. And she pushed the issue, and then he was like, the matter has been discussed amongst the partners, and the business is closed, and that business is none of yours. And then she pushes it, I think, a third time, and he's like, oh yeah, did your friend send you in here for this? Because I don't care about your opinion. Get out.
Get the fuck out. The door is over there. Get the hell out.
It was very cold, and then just as she was about to get out, you could see on his face that he was horrified with himself a little bit.
Yep, and he tells her
she didn't deserve that for being a good friend, and actually giving good advice, because he knows that, and he likes Jimmy.
You could tell again. I go to when Jimmy did the whole billboard incident, and McGill gets this look on his face, almost like look what Jimmy did.
He's flattered. He kind of likes it. He digs it a little bit.
What's he doing there? Yeah, it makes you look at that all a little different. Not that he's got the robotic thing, that almost he's looking to Jimmy like, that's pretty funny. I get it.
Yeah, he almost thinks it's funnier. It's almost funnier than it pisses him off. He looks at it like, oh, this might be a little fun, even like getting him to stop this and put it down, like.
Couple quick questions, comments I want to get. Anthony says Nacho will show up. We already said that one. Liquid Eagle. I think Tuco will find out about Nacho's side dealings. I wonder about that, and that they're gonna have some sort of war or something that's in a stalemate by the time of Breaking Bad, because or he gets taken out, or it makes me wonder, because at the time that the episode Better Call Saul, when Jesse and Walt have him at gunpoint, he says Ignacio like he's still alive. Did Ignacio send you? So if him and Tuco had a fall, and Tuco at that point is still alive too. So I wonder if he will, or they'll come to some sort of understanding, have a war that.
Do we ever see Nacho in
no,
Breaking Bad?
Not as far as I
so
know.
maybe that problem was taken care of, and he just never knew that it was taken care of.
Right. Also, as well, that maybe that Tuco took care of that, and we see the end of that situation. Because I do bet that Tuco ultimately gets the best of this.
He's been waiting 2 years for Nacho to show up and kill him, because he doesn't know that Nacho's dead. He's just only hoping that he's dead.
Great point, Joe. Great point, Liquid Eagle. Renwood, do you think we'll ever see prostitute Wendy? I think she's definitely one of the characters that might be a carryover from Breaking Bad. I could see her be a big-time character that they could easily bring over in a scene.
I don't remember her.
Oh, you don't remember you really need to rewatch Breaking Bad. She's a big part of the early seasons. The girl that Jesse has sex with, he also uses her as to try to kill. She's
the one with the kid?
Yeah. Oh no. She's not one of Jesse's girls. She's a legitimate prostitute. That
yeah, I definitely have to do a rewatch in the first few episodes. See, I watched the first couple of seasons, and then I was like, and I had to work Monday nights or whatever night it was on, and so I missed a season.
If you saw this girl, she's the equivalent on Sons of Anarchy of the Death Girl, or just that she's just in a lot of it. And she's an important character without being an important character. She's She's one of Jesse's customers that he can truly trust. She's a prostitute that covered, or one of ways of Jesse getting things done is through her. She helps him out a lot, especially in the early seasons. I don't think she's in much of the later seasons of Breaking Bad. She's more of a season 1 and 2 character, and I'm trying to remember if she pops up a lot in seasons 3 and 4, but she's in the earlier half of Breaking Bad.
I definitely don't remember any of
Wendy the prostitute
post nursing home explosion.
Okay, so here we go. Anthony also says I still don't think He would. Nobody likes the messenger. They usually kill them. That's very true. Justin Credible says, "What do we think the next encounter with Hamlin would be like? Jimmy could be like, would Jimmy like him?" Oh, that's when Anthony was answering that question. I tend to agree with that. I still don't think Jimmy's going to be warm with Hamlin. Maybe he might be the way this Jimmy we've seen is very forgiving. He might be like, "Oh, I know it wasn't really your fault. Bygones be bygones." But I seriously doubt that. I think he still looks at him as Satan. But he might, maybe some of that's transferring on to Chuck. It's going to be interesting to see.
It will be.
I think Jimmy's probably questioning everyone at this point, except Mike. Sam Crow says, Hamlin's still got to put meat on the table. That is very true. And Ren Roman says, I think he liked that she stood up to him. I agree with that. I think she liked that. He liked that Kim showed the balls and showed that she's friends with Jimmy. Again,
there's a loyalty there.
Yeah, and to piggyback on what you were saying, he likes that she does that because he kind of likes Jimmy. And he goes, yeah, I could see. And there's another point earlier in the season where she almost makes reference to hanging out with Jimmy, and he goes, I don't care if you're friends with him. And it makes me look at that line differently as well when there was some point earlier in the season where she mentions him quickly, and he goes, oh, are you hanging out with Jimmy, or you're friends with him? And she kind of avoids the question. So this was a big thing for her to admit she's friends with him. So I agree with that. I think he respects her for opening her mouth and admitting that that she's friends with him.
You got to remember, too, he sent that couple back to them. You know,
oh no, the one with the hamburgers. Not him. It stood up to the one with the hamburgers. She's talking about prostitute. She's talking about prostitute Wendy. She's talking about. Sorry, Ren. Getting confused with the Breaking Bad references. Yes, Jesse tried to get her to poison someone with raisin hamburgers, and she stood up to him and said, "I'm not killing people, and I can't give the burgers." Now I'm remembering what you were talking about. Thank you. Wendy is working as a dental assistant in this time period. She's quirky, feeling hard times, and after getting heavily into meth. So maybe we might see her in a dental office capacity. That could be very interesting. I look forward to any Breaking Bad crossovers in this universe. It's just
even the slightest things, because life takes turns. You throws you curveballs, and it's fun to watch. It'll be good to put together.
Yep, Joe, I just need to show you if you can see this picture of you that's right on the screen right there. It's like frozen on that picture. It's fucking hilarious stuff. You look like you're ready for something. You look like you're ready for some Hamlin.
No.
Oh, yeah, you're hungry.
The meme now.
Sorry. If anyone's curious of that, that's at 5326. That freeze frame right there as I plug myself back in. If anyone's curious of that particular, I highly encourage you guys to freeze frame of that. It's very funny. It's just a happenstance of the spot, and I needed to share. Sorry about that, Joe. So, anyways, meanwhile, Mike and the guys are waiting in an abandoned plant. I love how there's just so many. I've seen more abandoned plants or warehouses and stuff on Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul than I've ever seen in my life. It's great to see another one here. And it turns out, it's the guy who the vet sent, or it ends up being, I'm sorry, the guy he's a little bit nervous in the deal, and he goes to exchange the money, and he goes, how's this going to work? How's this going to work? Do I count the money first? And Mike goes, listen, this is how it's going to work. You count the money, you make sure it's all there, you trade off the money. Done deal. Easy peasy. Don't worry about it, George Costanza. Don't go into a big freak out here. It's going to be all right, Pig Vomit. It's going to be all right. So a familiar van that we have seen before in the show pulls up. I didn't know what it was right away. In fact, I mean, obviously I knew when he got out of the car, but I did not know with the van. After the fact, it was like, oh, shit, I should have known. I recognize it.
Yeah, you should have, and I'm embarrassed. I should have known, too.
Have Kim, Anthony, that we went into that question in great detail last week. Have Kim and Jim boned? Joe and Katie tend to think that they haven't. I'm on the side that they have.
I revised my opinion. I think he's on the hook. I think maybe there was a drunk night hookup that led to boning, and
Said
ever
both.
since Jimmy's been chasing it, and she hasn't been receptive because they're just friends, and that was, in her mind, a mistake, or she shouldn't have done it, or at least they got close to it, and Jimmy's been chasing it ever since.
Yeah. So familiar. So it's. I think it's getting to the point where we're seeing that if that something has happened. They hooked up at some point. There was some little action going on somewhere. At least I'm hoping. Jimmy needs some. Give Jimmy some love. We have yet to really see Saul with a girl.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure which one I think would be sadder in my mind for him. If they did hook up and he's been chasing it, or if they did have sex and he's been chasing it, or if they didn't, they just maybe almost did and he's been chasing it. I'm not sure which one I'd feel worse for.
We talked about this before. Do we think that Saul was lying when he said he had 2 ex-wives to Walt? Was that a lie? Has he never been married? Is he just a prostitute kind of girl? Is he an Asian massaged kind of girl that, given the happy ending, is that the only kind of guy he is ultimately because of this Kim situation? Does everything with this Kim situation drive him to the point where he can never commit to anybody? Is because it goes that badly, or does he really have 2 ex-wives? I'm curious because are we going to meet 2 other women that he marries? I'm just curious to see if that ends up happening. So, anyways, a familiar van.
What? I think she's always kind of looked at what is he going to bring to the table? He lives in he lives behind a beauty salon in a back office supply room.
Well, Anthony said, he's got cucumber water and gin. He's got a regular party in his pants going on there. So I don't know. I tend to think that I tend to go on the side of what we were just saying, that he's lying about it when he's talking to Walter, that he never really was married ever. But that everything we see in Better Call Saul is gonna see his heart being dried up, and unlike the Grinch, his heart is shrinking. And then the Grinch's heart shrunk that day. He turned into Saul Goodman. So the van pulls up, and it is Nacho with 2 guys. And while the pharmacist counts the cash per Mike's instructions, Mike and Nacho have a stare down, which only leads you to believe that they're having some sort of showdown next week, or Nacho is doing the same thing that he's always doing, looking out for people he can work with, from what we know about Nacho so far.
It really, I was wondering exactly if Nacho shorted it $20 on purpose.
Oh, of course he did.
Of course
he did. I think initially it was probably going to go down, again, from what we know. I love about Nacho and about what he said to Saul about I love robbing criminals. It's easy. That was going to go down one way and one way only. The guy was going to count the money, because everybody counts the money. Say I'm $20 short. Nacho was going to say you're going to make this deal end in $20 and get it all into his face, and then rob him and take the money back and take the drugs. Done deal. Kill his bodyguards if he has to, or at least knock them the fuck out. And because this guy's going to hire pussy bodyguards, because this guy's a fucking tool, and I'm just going to rob him of his drugs and all this money. And when he got wind of Mike, he could smell cop or hardcore asshole on Mike a mile away, and done deal. I mean, I know what Mike says later about, oh, I knew that this was okay. I know I didn't need to bring a gun for this situation, but maybe he did.
Well, hold on. Do you really believe he doesn't have a gun on him?
No, not for a fucking second.
No, of course he has a gun on him.
He has a couple weapons on him. Mike had
probably. Yeah. Almost 100% definitely he does.
To use the other line that the guy says, Mike has 0 guns on it that he wants to tell you about.
Exactly.
He's not going to tell you. He's not going to admit he has 2 guns on him, and he's lying about more. Mike's not telling you anything he has in his hand. Mike's the guy, again, we always do poker comparisons. Mike's the guy at the table that's not telling you anything. There's no talking coming from Mike except for to say, I check, or I raise, in this like deadpan voice. He's not showing you shit. So Mike, of course he has one. He has a taser, a gun, a laser, a fucking a Bic razor blade with the blade stuck up like a shiv from Oz. You know, he's totally hooked up. Mike's got weapons on him.
Yeah.
And Ignacio can smell this shit on a mile away and just knows that Mike's not someone to fuck with.
Right, and like Mike said, he doesn't. They don't want to leave 2 dead bodies in the ground. He's going to make money off of this, And Ignacio knows that if this goes good and this guy likes the money he got, he'll do it again. He got a taste. He's going to want more. Just like the guy says, as soon as he gets in the car, he's like, Mike tries to give him a little bit of a guilt trip. He's like, oh yeah, I can get more. Like, it's no problem.
Liquid Eagle said about Saul, he had a barfly chick, but was sick to his stomach from just watching two kids get their legs broke. Oh yeah, I remember that. Sam Crow says he zipped up his pants while Jesse comes in with the massage ladies as well. That's what I was saying as well. I think Nacho is trying to make the moves on his own to be his own boss. Sam Crow says. Ren says, I keep thinking counterfeit money. If you're gonna get into this business, you need one of those pen thingies to check out the money is real. I absolutely agree with you 1,000%. Just Incredible says Nacho respects Mike, I think. They'll team up. I tend to agree with that. That's the vibe I got by the end of it all, when he kind of gives him a nod. I have a feeling similar to the way he saw something in Saul, he saw something in that moment in Mike, like, this guy knows business, and this is the guy I want to be my bodyguard, not the other way around. And it's going to progress Mike into the crime business a little bit further, quicker. And Anthony says the stare down was epic. Nacho versus Mike. I don't care about the toppings of nachos. I care about what's inside. Absolutely. That was the stare down. That was the fucking death stare down of fucking super awesomeness. Oh my freaking God, says Anna Banana. Amazing episode. Chuck is a total asshole. Kim didn't totally backstab. This show kicks ass. I could not agree with you more. This show, it's fun to talk about a show that you have not that I love talking about The Walking Dead, I love talking about Game of Thrones more than anything. I love talking about Vikings. But with Better Call Saul, having absolutely zero knowledge of anything, no hints of anything the way things are going, it's fun the way this show makes you just speculate, even it being a prequel. And we talk about this a lot of prequels learn how to do things from what Better Call Saul is doing, and making you still be excited of not knowing what's going to happen in the story. Make the stories and make yourself invested enough in the stories that it makes you want to know so bad how you connect the dots. Not like you're watching a roller coaster because there are ups and downs, already stuck on a track, and you know exactly how it's going to go. Like the Star Wars prequels, for instance, where it gets set up in a way like, oh yeah, this is happening here to happen here.
Only difference, I'll say, is that the writing is much better.
Right.
In this prequel than the aforementioned Star Wars.
But I'm saying but that's the whole point. I'm saying this is how you learn. They should have taken witness. The problem usually is that sort of shit. Yeah, and the writing's just ridiculously better. But
so now that Disney has the rights, Disney that has the rights, or is it Sony?
Disney.
Disney. Now that Disney has the rights, do you think they can remake those last three?
Similar to the way Lucas wanted to revamp all the old ones to put all his crap. Could Disney go in, Disney Marvel or whatever go in there? Like, can we just get rid of these 3 movies and remake 1, 2, and 3 as good movies?
Get rid of your whole please.
Okay, we'll do a whole Star Wars podcast at some point. That's coming. The new movie's coming out, and Brienne of Tarth's in it, so we have to do a review of that.
Ooh,
Brienne.
She playing a Wookiee?
I don't know. Joe. Probably. So you're gonna quibble about that $20, he says, and Mike's the guy, George Costanza guy, is kind of like, yeah, no, the $20, no problem. And Mike says, agreed upon price or no deal. And Nacho kind of smiles at him, gives him okay. And again, this was the moment where I think it could have gone a different way if Mike wasn't there.
How much money was in that envelope? He counted that pretty freaking quick to know that there was just only $20 short.
Okay.
Am I the only person that found that a little bit strange?
Yeah, the TV timing, a little bit of TV timing there. How much money do you think he gave him? If he's paying the bodyguards $500.
I don't know. If those are $1,500 goes out right away.
So he's probably making 10, 15 grand there. You think?
I mean, I don't know how many pills were in each of those bottles, and I can't remember how many bottles. And they're 80 milligrams, and I'm assuming oxy, but who the fuck knows exactly what? So, like, exactly how much he's giving him there is
Sam Crow Sam Crow, just to answer your question, and I'm sure Kurt Sutter is because Kurt Sutter being a huge fan of Breaking Bad, I'm sure he watches this show too. So would I watch a First Nine prequel to Sons of Anarchy? You bet your fucking ass I would, and we'd review every fucking episode of it too. Liquid Eagle says, I'm trying not to watch any teasers from next week's episode. I cheated tonight because this episode was so fucking good. Just Incredible says, sorry to get off topic, but will you guys be seeing the Avengers? Absolutely. I'll be seeing the Avengers and try to drag Joe along as well, and we'll be doing a review of that. Hopefully in that first week that it comes out, we'll do the Age of Ultron review as well. We want to get into doing some more movie reviews podcasts as well. Yeah. So, but no problem changing the subject quick. We're, don't keep us on topic here, motherfuckers. Don't how dare you? No worries. Absolutely no worries. And any questions you guys have when we're on live, feel free to send them our way, and we'll try to answer them. So, excuse me. You're not going to quibble over that, Nachos, but he agrees, pulls out the bills and lets the money flutter, and the pills, past the pills, the drugs are handed out over the money and gets exchanged the right amount, and Nacho and his cohorts drive away. No guns, no drama, it all goes good. Mike gets in the car, and the client hands him $1,500. He asks Mike how he knew he wouldn't need a gun, and Mike doesn't tell him he does have a weapon, because I tend to agree with Joe that Mike absolutely is packing some sort of weapon to be able to take out anybody he wants to. And yes, he could do it with his fists, but punching people in the neck, but he's smarter than that.
Right, I mean, Mike's not going to be able to kill the two guys standing next to the van when they start open firing at him by disarming them with the guns. Come on, Mike knows that he does need a gun, but there's no need to talk about it. Size of your gun doesn't matter. How many guns you have doesn't matter as much as how many bullets you have for the one gun you do have. You know, like, the guy was being a total tool, and Mike doesn't see any. Why are we talking about? We're not whipping our dicks out. We're not going to measure this right now. Like, what are you talking about?
Lester Grand Theft Auto 5. Yep.
No, I think it wasn't. I looked. It definitely wasn't Lester, but it was definitely Trevor, like you said.
Oh, it was Trevor?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
I looked when I looked up price on IMDb. I didn't see.
I thought I recognized the fucking voice. Good. I'm glad I placed that. 2 points ding for Phil right there. So Mike's client hands him $1,500. He asked Mike how he would know he wouldn't need a gun. He said, you got a great deal. He says, because I do my homework. This guy is Ignacio. I killed that name that time, but his Nacho as well. His boss doesn't know he's going on his own here, and he doesn't want anything to find out. So I guess I tend to believe Mike, not me. That I go by that motto. If Mike says something against what I'm talking about, I'm wrong. When I said that Nacho might have jumped this guy, maybe not, maybe eventually, but Mike says he didn't want to make any waves. But I'm saying maybe Mike doesn't know what the audience know, the conversation that Nacho's had with Saul about robbing criminals. Yeah, it's just something I do. And knowing that that's part of his business, it isn't just running his own drug trade away from Tuco. It's also robbing these people eventually, taking the drugs, robbing the people, taking the drugs, rob the people, because he has admitted that to Saul before, that he loves ripping off criminals. It's the best thing to do.
Right. Maybe he knows who this guy is, and he goes and robs him later, takes his money back.
I think Anthony says, I think Mike didn't need a gun. Too gangster. He uses psychology. Very possible too that he just and what we know about how Mike goes in the end, it could be perfect that he just doesn't have a gun at the right time sometimes. So we get into this whole thing where Mike talks about how I know good criminals and I know bad cops, bad priests and honorable thieves, and he's basically convincing this guy, telling this guy that, yeah, you're a criminal. Listen, you stole pills, you sold them illegally, you're a criminal. That doesn't make you a bad person. There are good people that are criminals. There are bad people that are cops. So you just pick one and be it. You're a criminal now. Deal with it. That's basically how you have to do. But we're safe. But pretty sure that Nacho is going to be a safe guy. If we work with him, it can be an ongoing supply of some money and get some cash to supply my money-hungry daughter-in-law. And so it seems like this is going to be a setup for Mike, and Mike is progressing his way. Again, to keep with the Grand Theft Auto references, it's Mike working his way through the criminal enterprise. It's GTA
He's doing the small missions to get there.
Yeah, exactly. He's working his way through the mission. He's playing the video game to get to the top of the criminal landscape here. Play Grand Theft Auto New Mexico. So meanwhile, Kim is waiting for Jimmy at the nail salon where he pulls up, and he's had a rough day. He says, "Oh, welcome to Jimmy Land. Hang out. I've got tequila. The only deal is you have to listen to me. Talk about that unharrowing."
He doesn't just have tequila. He's got tequila. He's got rum. He's got gin. He's got like 5 different boozes, and you can have your choice. Just listen to me bitch about fucking douche nozzle Hamlin.
Yeah, the douche does it. I almost want to say he actually says douche nozzle. he says something like that. It's pretty funny when he calls her. I'm trying to find it. Jimmy's home. Kim's waiting for him, and he said, "I've been in Chuckland. I've got some booze, some tequila, and lots of booze. But the only deal is if you're gonna come in and I've got to talk about your washless ass, how much your boss has got to washless asshole levels,
Yep.
and the levels of douchebaggery to be passed down by the wind talkers and the like. He hates me and so much he doesn't want to work with me, and I hate him too. He's blind and she fuck him and his Hamlin to go blue." And she says, yes. You know what? You need to take the deal. Take the deal is the best for you. You'll find a better office. You'll be your own man.
And she looks a little distraught, like she's not put together. She looks like she may have been teared up at some point.
Yeah, very upset. Very
Yes.
careful about.
She seems very sincere. And
God, I've gone back and forth with her. I've gone from at the beginning thinking that she really did care about Jimmy to your side of thinking, or your side briefly. I know you're starting to be more liquid, and all of our opinions, obviously, especially in a show like this, are liquid.
she's never really had a problem telling him either when Hamlin's being a dick.
Right. But this was the first time we've seen what sold her for me tonight was this was the first time thinking that Hamlin's being an outrageous dick, that she's put herself and her job on any part of the line for Jimmy's sake. She yelled at her boss, and she walked out of that office like, "Fuck you, Hamlin," and she was willing to put herself on the line there. And Hamlin has shown himself to be a guy that if he feels like you fuck up or you do the wrong thing, he will demote you. Like he did with her, because he feels like she didn't act strong enough, fight enough for the Kettlemans. So that's probably another reason why he gained respect watching her fight for Jimmy, because he's like, oh, she does fight for what she believes in. And oh, thank goodness for Jimmy getting her back the Kettlemans. So he said, you want me to give up the case? She said, I want you to be happy. Take the money, no risk money. You're a good person. Hamlin promised you the money. And then Jimmy goes, shut the fuck up. What did Hamlin promise you? There's something in it for you. What's going on here? And this is the first time I wrote, maybe something evil Hamlin has done for Chuck. I put with a question mark in my notes. And so as we get Saul, he just gets this. She walks out and they separate, and Saul gets alone. And you just get that music cue that you hear in Breaking Bad sometimes in Better Call Saul. That something evil's in the air as Jimmy starts plugging in his phone and thinking and watching his phone charge. He picks up the landline, and we cut over to Chuck whistling in his house, lighting a match. And he lights the gas, lights the iron board, notices Jimmy there, and he says, oh, how long have you been sitting there? Jimmy says, I don't know. Left my watch. And right away, you know that something is up in this scene. Jimmy's mindset, and we talked a lot about this scene through the night, so Jimmy's whole motivation and his tactics, the way he's going into this moment, is completely changed. We've never seen him talking to Chuck like this. Very quick, harsh with him. Yep, I left my watch outside. Chuck says, "Oh, it felt good being in the office. The space blanket insides of my coat looked really, really well. I'm thinking about going."
I still love the point that he left his watch outside. That's the battery in that is so minuscule, really. Chuck at this point needs Jimmy to leave his watch outside still, but he throws that out there.
I think it's one of those set up ways of him taking the high ground of his brother and show him that he's always on the level with him, and you're never on the level with me. No matter what, I'm still doing this for you, even though I'm catching you in this bullshit right now.
Right.
And Joe was ready to knife Kim in the back of the head. Yeah, at some point he was. Joe was.
I was getting
on
there.
He's right there.
I was definitely getting there.
Anna Banana says the complexity of these characters is fantastic. Such real conversation, such flow, leaves me wanting more every time. I couldn't agree with that more, and that's what's so great about the Breaking Bad, the Seth Gilligan. Sorry, I'm thinking about still have Walking Dead on my mind. Vince Gilligan universe that he's created. He's created it of such, and I'd say this is one of the things. In the main characters on Breaking Bad did this really well. Some of the outside characters were a little bit more cartoonish, and I'd say the same thing you could say on Better Call Saul. We have definitely certain outside characters having these cartoonish like archetypes of types of characters doing ridiculous things off what characters like them usually do, so we get different perspectives of them. And then you always have these human elements, like the human element of the relationship between the White family and Hank and Marie and all of that, and the real relationship between Jesse and Walt. And on this show, you just have so much of the built-in foundation of a real complex relationship with Chuck and Jimmy, and some of these other characters that you might have thought were just exactly what we thought they were. They're right now in episode 9, it's completely spun it around to show the grayness of someone like fucking Hamlin. That is someone we thought, oh, clearly fucking bad guy. This guy's a dick. This guy's evil. This guy, or not evil. This guy's a dick. This guy's a douche nozzle. All of those things. And in this episode, we're like, oh, maybe he kind of likes Jimmy. I mean, he's a little bit of a douchebag, but he likes Jimmy.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure he's wrong. The last time he's doing anything or eating any of Chuck's shit, says Sam Crow. I agree with that. This is probably the last time he ever respects Chuck in the way that he has up until this point. So Chuck says it felt good to be in the office. He prepared the space blanket. Jimmy says, or Chuck asks him if he's all right, and he's like, oh, I'm happy that you're happy, whatever. He says, how are you, Jimmy? And Jimmy says, I'm not happy. I didn't sleep last night, soul searching. I think I'm gonna take the deal. And Chuck says, oh, are you sure that's what you want? Jimmy says,
immediately starts buttering him. That's a great idea, Jimmy.
He said, Kim talked to me. I'd be a fool to pass up the cash, and I have no interest working with Hamlin. But imagine two McGill boys making money, making the cash, taking the world on, and they both give a smile, and Chuck says, you know what? I'll keep at him. I'll wear him down. It's going to be a long case. Maybe by the end, I won't badger him, but I won't give up. And if Saul wasn't pissed off enough, that was like the straw that broke the fucking camel's back right there. It's like, you're going to bullshit me this whole time, and you're going to sell this line of shit to me, and then you're going to say that to me at the end of it all. You're gonna feed me shit, and then you're going to fucking block up my asshole so I can't get it out. I'm sorry. But it's just this different level of hell that Chuck puts him there. It's another, you can't give up the bullshit. You can't give up the game here, Chuck, and you can't just say, yep, okay, and just smile and let it go. Where maybe Jimmy might have been able to let this go right there, which I don't think so for sure, but any possibility of that, he had to push it in and be like, yep, I'll keep pushing, I'll badger him, I won't badger him, but I'll keep asking until maybe everything will be okay. And Saul says, I'm so lucky to have you. And maybe there is a way to change Howard's mind. You know what? You could just quit. Threaten to get out of there. Play a game of chicken with Howard. You'd win.
Let's play hardball. Let's just go straight there. Let's just go play hardball because they're not going to lose you over this.
You have this nuclear option. If you really want to, and then he yells. We've said this so many times this year, and we talk about Michael McKean a lot tonight so far. Fucking Bob Odenkirk came to play in this scene, and especially on this line. If you really wanted to work with me, you would get this done.
Yep.
Hamlin would be safe. You have a doomsday device. Game over, Chuck. And you claim him, and then he gets into it. You claim you called him. It was you. I know it was you. I always turn my phone off, and my phone drained, and I knew I didn't turn it off, and it really bothered me. It was nagging me. Turned out somebody called somebody at 2 a.m. while I was asleep, and it called Hamlin's number, and only one person could make that call. And I called my phone company and found out that Hamlin's number was called, and guess what? It was you.
Yeah, had to be you. There's nobody else that's going to make that call at 2 in the morning to Hamlin, and McGill.
And then he goes further. He goes, all those years back, as we saw in a few episodes, was it last episode or the episode before, or a couple episodes ago, or a former episode? He goes, when I first got my law degree, you didn't want to hire me either. It was all you. It was you this whole time when I tried to. And again, this is the closest thing we have to a time answer for you, Joe. He says, when I tried to join the firm years ago. So what would years ago be? 3, 4?
At least 3.
At least 3, not quite 5?
It's who the fuck knows?
I love the speculation here.
Because, who knows? It could be a while.
Anthony says the writing on the show is superior to most shows because of the type of flips that they put like on Hamlin in that one scene. Liquid Eagle says Chuck was 100% right for not letting Jimmy work at the firm and 100% wrong about the way he went about it.
Correct.
I tend to agree. He could have found a different law firm that Jimmy might have been good for. Because
he could have told him straight out right away when Jimmy came to him. He should have been the one to tell him immediately that day. Maybe not that day, but should have been like, hey, Jimmy, I love you. I respect you. I'm glad you've done this. There's a lot of law firms out there that'll be glad to have you. These are the reasons why I think it would be a bad idea. And there are many Democratic lawyer reasons why he could have gotten away with things to tell him that and would have made this a non-issue at this point.
Anthony, great point. If you pass the bar, you are a lawyer. Jimmy made a good case and was on the up and up. It took his brother to be a traitor to make this turn happen, to make him stop, as Ren Renwood said earlier, to go from Breaking Good to Breaking Bad here. And essentially it was this. And Chuck says, he goes, why? Why? Tell me why. Chuck says, Chuck can't handle the bullshit anymore and just lays into him. And again, we talked a lot tonight about people putting on shadows, people putting on masks, and uncovering the real person. And
he was always an encouragement. He was always a big brother. He was always there to help him. And the veil comes off, and
you're not a real lawyer. American Samoa University, for Christ's sake. Community college, online correspondence courses, a fucking joke. I worked my ass off. You took a shortcut, and you think because you're funny, people, and you get you places. I put my life into this. You don't just stop being slippin' Jimmy. You don't just slip into it like a new pair of shorts. And Saul says, I thought you were proud of it. And Chuck says, I was proud of you when you had a job in the mailroom, and that's who you were. And Jimmy says, oh, that's what you think I'm worth? And Chuck says, no, I know who you really are. You are slipping Jimmy. You always will be. And with a law degree, it's like a chimp with a machine gun. The law is sacred. You will abuse power and get people hurt. And he goes, on some level, I'm right.
Well, and on some level, he ends up being right, too.
That's what I'm saying earlier tonight, our big question for the night. Chuck was an asshole. Was Walter being an asshole, but ultimately right here? What is Chuck... Sam Crow was saying, or Liquid Eagle was saying he was right before, 5 years ago or whenever. Is he right now, too? It's hard to say. It's hard to say. And Chimp with a machine gun, low blow, absolutely. Huge low blow for him. And we go on here.
My whole thing is, and who the fuck are you? You, of all people who claim to have worked your ass off, you don't know how hard he worked for this, how much he studied his ass off for this.
It takes, and I'll just to go with Anthony saying, you have to be hardcore and really put your time, effort into passing the bar exam. I know I'm not even close to passing the bar exam, but at one point in time I was briefly a real estate agent, which is probably 1/10 of 1/100th of what you need to pass on the bar exam, and having to just study for that alone, remembering the terms and shit. Imagine that times 1,000,000,000 is the fucking taking the bar. And that's hard work, and Jimmy had to bust his ass to do that. Unless we find out later that Jimmy cheated to pass the bar, which we've talked about later, which we may find out or may not find out later. We'll have to hold on to that and see what kind of flashbacks we get next season when he's going crazy.
I hope not. I hope that
No,
not
me
if he had to
too.
take it 3 times.
No, there's no way.
Frustrated after the second time, it was like, fuck it, I'm cheating.
Yeah, I say, good point though. I tend to think he passed, and again, I quoted Catch Me If You Can last time of saying that con man had to pass the bar, because it's a very tough thing to having even taken the standardized real estate test, and that you have to go through a security window. There's like all sorts of shit you have to go through to get to the point to take that standardized test. I can imagine what you have to go through to take the bar. It's probably pretty exhaustive. So Jimmy says, he quickly changed the subject, and he says, I had a 20 bag of ice. I got you supplies. I've got you supplies for 3 or 4 days. But after that, you're on your own. And then he just walks out as Chuck just is like, I can't believe I said that. I can't believe I couldn't keep my mouth shut. And just yells, Jimmy, Jimmy, Jimmy. He follows him out of there, begging him for to come back, being Jimmy, 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 as Jimmy races off. And quickly, our scenes from next week, we see Jimmy fucking upset, really upset, back to his old slippin' Jimmy tricks is what seems to be for next week in our scenes from next week. And that is this episode, Pimento, of Better Call Saul. Another fucking amazing episode. The writing on the show, as someone in the chat room said, is just superior to most things on television in how they can make every scene so deep and so deep. So it's just such an awesome show, and I'm gonna miss it. And what do you think? What's your hype? What do you think we're gonna see in the season finale, Joe?
Well, I think I already.
Yeah, you kind of already said you went into depth of what
he's
you
going to give off the case, and we're going to see the birth of Better Call the Saul. And
so
the commercial. He's going to get the influx. This is his ticket to that setup, as far as I see it. I mean, we kind of thought it was that other money that we were getting dangled in front of us all season, but ultimately, I think he will take this. I think he wasn't lying. I think he'll wash his hands of his brother for now until that comes to another head next season. And I think we'll finally get that Better Call Saul moment.
So that's the big question. Probably a lot of people have. Will he be Saul Goodman in the next episode? By the end of this next episode,
I'm certainly hoping so.
I'm thinking he's going to decide on the Saul Goodman thing, and then in between seasons, we're going to get them. When we see him at the beginning of next season, he's going to be in the place we see him in Breaking Bad, like in that strip mall. And we're gonna lead it in with a lot of Saul's here.
This is where. Okay, wait. I got my prediction right here on how it ends.
Joe's third
prediction. Taping the commercial, right?
Mm-hmm.
He goes in to tape the Better Call Saul commercial, and as we're watching them film the Better Call Saul commercial, it will fade out from his TV, and we'll have black and white Saul finishing off watching.
Right.
Better Call Saul, baby.
And then we get our Jesse.
And that will be the end. And that will be the birth of the Better Call Saul. Tie it into the Cinnabon at the end of the season.
And
how do you like it?
I kind of like it. I just tend to think that we're going to get more progression of the plot in the Cinnabon storyline. Hence, from what I've heard when they said in the off season that Better Call Saul is not just going to be a prequel, it's going to be a sequel as well. So I think we might get that what the fuck lost. Oh my God, there's flash forwards too moment at the end of this episode where we see someone in the future, or there's some sort of progression of the Saul storyline.
Well, season 2 is all Cinnabon season.
That could be. People are talking about how Jesse Pinkman could make a return to the show. It could be in the future. Everyone keeps thinking it might be in the past. It could be in the future. Who the fuck knows, bitch? Who the fuck knows? Couple questions before we wrap up. Anna Banana says, to be betrayed by the person you admire the most, my heart broken for Jimmy. I could feel what he was feeling. Yeah, I think we all that have been there, knowing that people that we hold close to our heart, that break our heart in moments, it can really sting, and we can all feel for Jimmy and feel for the hole that might drive him down in. Tim, welcome, Tim. Hey, it's going really, really well. Sam Crow says, you think we'll see Gus as a cliffhanger? I hope. There's a lot of rumors that Gus might be in tonight's episode. As much as I really want Gus, I tend to think that we won't see him till next season. I hope we see him. I hope I'm wrong, but it'll be very interesting. And
You
also,
didn't see him in the van? He was sitting in the van.
also, Cool Breeze, if you're listening to this at some point, try to send me a link to the scene that you say that you spotted Gus in. I looked around, but I could not find that. So if you have a link to that and can send it to me, that'd be fucking awesome. Ren Renwood, without Jimmy's respect, what will happen to Chuck? Can he live with the realization that he's lost his hero worship? That it's a very good question. And how will Chuck react, and will Chuck be able to live without Jimmy? Without Jimmy supplying him, is Hamlin going to be supplying him with all his goods and all the?
He can if he's as long as he's working and productive, I think he'll be able to at least start supporting himself again.
Sam Crow says Chimp with the machine gun. Liquid Eagle says the billboard incident was enough for Chuck to realize that if he had any doubts about where Jimmy was heading, that a leopard doesn't change his spots.
I think even though that was a slipping Jimmy move, I don't necessarily. It wasn't. I mean,
it was a total move. He paid a guy.
It was illegal, I guess, because he caused public disturbance.
It was a total slipping Jimmy move.
Yeah, but I don't necessarily see like it was advertising. It was a good way to get advertising.
Yeah,
but if he is,
it was a con. It was a con. Just because the con is the good purpose, it doesn't matter. To quote Mike from the episode, just because you're doing things for a good purpose, just because you're a good person, doesn't make you not a con man. He's a good person, but he's still, and that's what Chuck is arguing. Yes, no matter what you do, even though you're doing things for the right thing, you're a fucking con man. There's a lot of examples through history. You thinking you're doing the right thing is worse than you as a bad guy. It's basically what Chuck is saying. You fighting for a righteous cause is the scariest fucking shit in the world. Oh, Chuck will realize what he lost, says Sam Crow. And so it's going to be very fun to see where this goes. This is a good place to cut off, guys. Thank you so much for checking out. Oh, we have one more comment from Liquid Eagle. I just got it in there. I believe we'll see the sign being put up at the end of the finale at The Office because the title of the show is Better Call Saul. That would be a good way of wrapping up the season. I tend to agree that we're either going to see that at the end here or at the beginning of next season. Sam Crow says he will regret what he said. Liquid Eagle says not slipping Jimmy. Was probably something we said. I'm not sure what the reference was there. Or okay, what your last comment was. Okay. So the billboard incident was enough for Chuck to realize a leopard doesn't change his spots. He realizes. Anthony says he relies on Jimmy for his life. Good luck. Good luck, Chuck. Good luck, Mr. Chuck.
Yep.
So everybody, thank you so much for tuning into this podcast. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button if you like what you see and listen to. And please share your comments below and what you thought of this episode of Better Call Saul. You thought about any of the stuff we said. We're always for corrections on anything we say that might be incorrect. We
are far from the experts in the final word, as you all know. So please correct us any chance you can. No problem.
But really, when it comes down to it, Joe, it's different when we're talking about a Game of Thrones episode that we've seen 50 times over and over, or we're talking about an episode right after it happens. It's easy to miss things, and it's awesome that you guys are out there that watch things over and over in the week, same as we do, and can comment on stuff, and we can have these discussions during the week. So we really appreciate all the comments.
We do.
Love all the comments in the Walking Dead video, and we appreciate it so much. And what we're going to do is, if we mentioned this in the last episode as well, our next cast will probably be on Wednesday evening, where we're going to do sort of like a question and answer podcast for a lot of our Walking Dead questions or any other questions that people might have that relate. If you have any specific questions, you can email me at igetissuesman@gmail.com and or comment on the Walking Dead video or this video too, but mainly going to be Walking Dead centric. But of course, we don't mind talking about other things.
Wednesday evening. I work Wednesday evening.
Okay, so not Wednesday evening. So it will be coming up at some point. We'll let you know. It might be sometime next week then, because this week gets a little hinky for us because I'm going to be away this weekend working at an anime conference, so that we can't really cast too much over this weekend. But we will be back on Thursday evening. Then will be the next time we're casting to do Vikings right after it happens. So we will talk to you guys again on Thursday evening for some Vikings. Have a good night, guys, and keep the comments going, keep the discussion going all week. Really appreciate all the support, guys, on everything. So thank you again. Talk to you soon.
Peace.